Hi, I'm Mike Ryan. In part 2 of our series about Silver City, New Mexico, we're going to be searching for turquoise. When I knew I was going to go down there, I ran an ad asking for turquoise wanted, and I received one response from Norman Rubish. And Norman worked at the mine from 1969 to 1986. And during that period, it's what we know as the lunchbox miners, where miners would be able to see the turquoise, pick it up, and then take it out with them. So I wasn't sure if any of it was available because Tyrone's a very difficult turquoise to locate these days. But we're going to see my search for the turquoise as we take a visit and see the turquoise of Norman Rubish. So I hope you enjoy our exciting search for turquoise.
Well, I'm here with Norman Rubish. Did I pronounce that right, Norman?
Yes.
And we're in Silver City. And we're going to look at some turquoise, but before we do that, Norman, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about how you got involved in turquoise and came to Silver City, and a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born on a farm east of Deming and went to school there, farmed up till 69. Moved up here and went to work for Phelps Dodge. And that's where I really got interested in turquoise. And it just went from there, and then I was out there for 17 years and then come up and put me in a slaughterhouse and run that for 17 years. And then I retired in 01, and we've just been traveling and first one thing and another, and always working on jewelry. I was into jewelry making when that Hunt Brothers put a high price on the silver. It went to $50 an ounce.
Yeah, I remember that time. That was a challenging time for jewelers.
Yeah, but you couldn't sell your silver.
Why was that?
Nobody'd buy it.
Oh, too much money.
Yep.
Well, I think that was the Hunt Brothers' intention. They wanted to own it all.
Yep.
Well, now how do you come into turquoise? Did that happen when you were working for Phelps Dodge?
I think mostly it did. Then I got to going around to dealers and stuff.
Now, we know from Turquoise in America Part 1, the Great American Turquoise Rush, that turquoise time here was really a little before Phelps Dodge got into operation down there at Old Tyrone, about 1915 or so. And there was a lot of turquoise operations. In fact, I think we're going to see a little bit later the area of the old Azure mine, which was the center of operations for turquoise. And my understanding was that as they were mining that out earlier and putting in the smelter plants, and they went through these old dumps, that a lot of folks who were working for Phelps Dodge could get out and pick up some turquoise, put it in their lunchbox. Mm-hmm. Is that what you were doing?
Well, what is it? Limitations run out.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They're not coming back.
I took out quite a bit, not like some of the guys did, but I took out a little bit.
If you'd been taking copper, they wouldn't have liked it.
No,
but they didn't really care that much. The only thing they didn't like is they didn't want you to hurt yourself.
Well, they didn't want you to spend their time
mining for turquoise. That's true. But you worked there for 17 years, so they were happy with your work.
Well, they had a big party when I left, but I wasn't invited.
Why was that?
I don't know.
I don't think we're going to ask any more about that.
Yeah.
We may learn more about Norman than we need to know here. Well, Norman, we'd sure like to take a look at some of your turquoise.
All right.
So, Norman, you said you made a lot of jewelry in your life, and we're going to take a look at some of that. So maybe you can explain to us about the jewelry. Maybe some of it has some story you want to tell us, and you can tell us what the turquoise is.
Well, my mother was part Indian, and she loved big jewelry. and I built her a lot of that, and she wore it all the time. This is Kingman that the nuggets come out, and then I made this out of Kingman. And a cousin of mine from Deming used to come up and stay with us for a week or two. And I'd come in off an evening shift from the mine, and we'd sit there sometimes till daybreak designing this. And I have never pushed it off as Indian jewelry. I've got GR on most of this, which stands for Gringo Roubush. And that keeps it, nobody can sell it for jewelry. And I don't remember where this come from, maybe Morenci. And then this is from Tyrone. And I get a lot of arguments that Tyrone never furnished that type of turquoise, but we know it did because I dug that out from under a shovel that we'd moved over on a little pot of turquoise one time.
Well, in the early days of the Great American Turquoise Rush, all they wanted was the sky blue.
Uh-huh.
So what they would have done with that is just cut out those little pieces of blue.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been exactly what they wanted, was that sky blue.
Are you familiar with City.Part?
Yes.
Okay. That was one of the turquoise centers of New Mexico at one time.
It was indeed. In fact, the American Turquoise Company, they started there in the Cerrillos Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Azure Mining Company came down into the Laurel Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a pair of something you said had a nice story. Let's take a look at that and tell us what those are.
I had an uncle that was in the Bataan Death March, and he sent these to my mother. I have no idea where he got them, but these things are my land's old. They're little bumblebee type critters.
Now, he had bought those and
Yes.
sent those to your mother.
Yes.
And this would have been before?
Was during the war.
During the war.
Yes. And like I say, I don't know where he got them.
Now, that has a Tyrone look to it.
That is Tyrone.
Yeah, that's a beauty. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. You can see that distinctive matrix with Tyrone. It's similar to a Bisbee, because Bisbee's not that far away, really. It's the same geology-wise. It's all the same formation.
Yep.
And a lot of people would think, oh, that's Bisbee, but the blue's different. The
Yes.
Bisbee blue has a little different look than the Tyrone blue. Now, you said this is your own work here.
Yes.
This work here, where you tell us a little bit about how you designed that.
Well, the little wire, you twist that first,
Okay.
and then you string a couple of square that matches the size, and you just put it in the drill and hold the other end and just start twisting.
Twisting it. Well, it comes out really nice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a unique look. I haven't really seen that. So that's the Roubush twist.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks for showing us this. Now, you mentioned that you got some rough turquoise.
Yeah, it's out the plant.
Well, we'll go take a look at that.
See, there's my mark.
Gringo. Well, I appreciate that you do that because, so much, if you get a Anglo-made piece of jewelry and if you sell it as Indian, it goes up in price. So it's a testament to your integrity that you didn't want that to happen. And why? Because your jewelry is fine as it is on its own merits. Norman also rolled all these Hishi beads himself. So not only could fabricate in the silver, but also a very skilled lapidary. I would think I think it's Tyrone.
It is. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The biggest part of that stuff is Tyrone.
Uh-huh. I agree.
Yeah. And I backed it with DEFCON.
Yeah. Yeah. DEFCON is hard. You don't need much to protect the stone. But they add that because it is heavy and it puts a lot of weight on. And of course, they're charging turquoise prices for plastic steel. So I always appreciate when I see someone who puts it on really thin. Sometimes the turquoise is so thin you don't have much choice.
Right.
Look how pretty that is. Pretty Tyrone turquoise here. The problem with Cerrillos is they didn't have a lot of the sky blue like this. That's what they were looking for. They were looking for this sky blue turquoise because the market was all for East Coast jewelers. They put it in settings with diamonds and pearls and other things like that. And so anything in matrix, they just throw it back into the dumps. And also, most turquoise is so soft that they weren't able to use it because they didn't have the same stabilization techniques that we have now. So the Azure Mining Company came down here and they hit what was called the Elizabeth cut. Don't know if you've ever heard that term, which was a thick vein of turquoise. And it was all of this. That's why you're seeing so much of this material is all of this same kind of material here. And you can see how hard that matrix is that it's in. So it was a harder material, and it was exactly what the market wanted. And so that's why they had a tremendous advantage over the American Turquoise Company, which was operating in Cerrillos.
Well, wasn't it Kingman that come up with a method to stabilize?
It was Chuck Colbaugh in the 60s. And he had this technique for stabilizing turquoise. So you're right, that was in the 60s.
I used to could tell the difference between the stabilized and the other when I was really in the deal.
Well,
I could tell the look.
Probably, you can feel it, you can see it, and sometimes when you cut it, for a lot of people, they can sure smell it. That's for sure.